the most underrated knife ever. I'm sure you think I'm going to talk about the Sebenza 21, right? Negative. And I'm running a little short on battery and time on my memory card. So if it sounds a little rushed, I apologize. If you didn't watch my traditional knife video, I'm shooting from a little bit of a different setup because I am getting ready to list my house. So unfortunately, my setup isn't what it used to be. I tried to find the best place I could. Pardon the echo. If you don't like the echo or whatever, I understand. Thumbs down, keep on moving. Appreciate you. Actually, what I'm going to talk about is I had an inbox and I've been talking back and forth with a guy just about knives in general. And he asked me, what did I think was the most underrated knife? And there were no caveats, no parameters, no anything like that. Just that was the question. It took me about 30 seconds and I was like, man, it's a hard question. And then it hit me all of a sudden. I've said it time and time and time and time again. The Hinderer FireTac, and I'm not talking about the new FireTac with the recurve and the tri-way pivot. I'll get into some of that stuff, but this is the older version, the Gen 1, if you want to call it that. No recurve, no tri-way, just regular old Teflon washers, just old school Rick Hinderer design and goodness. This is one of Rick's oldest knives. This also is one of the knives that was a custom knife for a very, very, very long time. So that's one of the things that I never have understood, why this knife has the history and the time in production that this knife has, but it does not get the recognition or publicity of like the XM18, for example, even by Rick Hinderer knives. I'm not by Rick himself, but by the company. You know, when they're putting out the XM18s and things of that nature, I just feel like there's a big push behind them. They put out all the hardware, they put out all the scales, they show you what models are coming out. All the retailers really pump those XM18s. When these come out, it's kind of like they show up on a website, they sit there for a long time, and then they kind of just slowly disappear, never to be talked about by the public, retailer, or Rick Hinderer knives. Why do I think this knife, it should be the Hinderer knife, and why do I think that this is one of the most slept on knives in and of itself? It's just because this knife has a lot of the characteristics of the Sebenza. And yes, this is a 21. Yes, I am a 21 fan. I don't prefer the ceramic interface, but that's a whole other video. You can see that this is a large. They share a similar size. They share a similar shape. So the ergonomics are there. It's a very neutral knife. The reason I don't prefer the XM18, one of the reasons is there's an aggressive slope to the back of the handle, and that kind of, it doesn't feel my hand. I never feel like I can get a good grip on the knife. And then when I do, I feel like the knife is leaning down like this, which I know that if you look at an XM18, you can tell that it's supposed to kind of have a negative cant, if you want to call it that. I just don't necessarily prefer that. The blade stock on this knife is a little bit thinner. So again, it's not as overbuilt and overkill as an XM18. The knife is a lot more elegant. Yes, it is a big knife. I think this blade is 4 inches long or about 4 inches long. So no, it's not going to be people friendly per se, depending on you personally and where you live. But it is not an aggressive looking knife like an XM or, you know, other quote unquote hard use overbuilt folders. The performance of the knife, just the Teflon washers. A lot of people don't like the Teflon, but I mean, I don't see what there is to dislike. You can see it closed on its own. It's centered. There's no play in this knife whatsoever. I actually have to over tighten the pivot so that way it's not, in my opinion, dangerous. You can see how the blade just kind of fell on my finger right then and there. If you're not careful, this blade will just fall shut on your finger. And if you keep a knife sharp like I do, I can't tell you how many times I've cut myself across the top of my thumb. It's very slim. It's it's lightweight relative to the XM. I have said it before. It is like a blend of it's like a blend of a Hinderer or an overbuilt folder with some Chris Reeve genetics mixed in there. So it's just a very approachable, comfortable, non-aggressive, all around, easy to use, easy to maintain knife. I just don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. You've got lots of straight edge here. Let's see. You've got lots of straight edge here for, you know, if you're doing long slicing cuts. You've got a little bit of belly if you need that belly, but also because it's slightly clipped at the tip, you've got that point where you can pierce things if you need to pierce them. I mean, it's just, I can't think of a negative. I know people will knock the Teflon washers. I've just shown you how well they work. This is a working finish, both on the scale and on the blade. I know that sometimes people talk about these the pivot hardware being proud. Honestly, I don't even think about it when I'm using the knife. You can't feel it or anything like that when you're using the knife. This does have a lock bar insert. I'm not the biggest fan of inserts, but this one hasn't given me any issues. It's just, it's hard to find a complaint about this knife. I know when it first came out, production-wise, people complained about the ramp. Honestly, I don't do a lot of cuts where my thumb is up here like this. I do a lot of hammer grip cuts like this. So I can't really, you know, and even if I do, my thumbs are very long. So I'm on the other side, which I have heard that you're supposed to kind of pull into this hump to kind of lock the knife into your hand. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just very hard to complain about this knife, in my opinion. And you don't hear a lot of talk about this knife, which is why I say it's one of the most slept on. You always hear about the XM18, but you hardly ever hear about the FireTac. Like I said, from Rick Hinderer knives, from retailers, or from the consumer themselves. So if I had to pick one of the most underrated knives, in my opinion, it would have to be the Hinderer FireTac. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope to catch you in the next video. Remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.